At last, guys, we're finally here for the second part of the Nickelodeon Movies Retrospective. Hi everyone, it's me, Gaming Do, and I want to apologize first of all for the general lack of videos. This has been a crazy busy time period for me, especially the month of June, where some things happened to my apartment and stuff like that, and I don't want to get into that stuff because it's kind of uncomfortable, but hopefully this video can make you guys comfortable, because today we're going to be covering Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events to The Last Airbender, and honestly I don't have too much more to say. Let's get right on into it. And today we start off the second part of the retrospective with Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Now, my main exposure to this movie before actually watching this for the first time for this retrospective was the trailer in front of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie on DVD. Literally, that's like my only exposure. And I love Jim Carrey and stuff like that, but for some reason, this film never clicked with me to want to watch it. And, well, I regret saying that, because I had a good time with this film. Sometimes the film can be a little bit weird, I guess you can say. And Count Olaf is actually freaking hilarious. He's by far the best part of the movie, but there's other good things about the movie, like the kids. I really like the whole setting of the film and sort of the gothic feel of it. It almost feels Tim Burton-like, in my opinion, and yeah, I should have given this movie a watch earlier, honestly, because I had a much better time with it than I was expecting. And, well, our first rating for part 2 is going to be an 8 out of 10. Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events surprised me a lot. Mad Hot Ballroom is okay. I definitely didn't hate it, but I'm just gonna be honest, dance films in general are not my type of thing. That's why you won't see me like films like Step Up and stuff like that. But I do like that this film is actually a documentary style film. All the characters are pretty likable and stuff like that, but just because of the genre and stuff like that, not only is this one of my least favorite films on the ranking yet, but it's also going to be one of my shortest reviews. I don't have too much to say about this film, but I will give it a 6 out of 10. You know, it was alright. For this film, the cast is by far the highlight. Dennis Quaid is really cool to see here. Rene Russo plays the mother character pretty good, but of course, all the old Nickelodeon stars is who I'm here to see. Like Drake Bell and Miranda Cosgrove and stuff like that. Other than that, this film is probably about on par with Mad Hot, honestly. Honestly, I just like this film for the cast, and I don't have all that much interesting to say about this film. But, you know what? I will put it a point above because, like I said, I like the cast of the movie more, and to me, this is just honestly a worse version of Cheaper by the Dozen. But I'm still going to give it a 7 out of 10. It was decently enjoyable. How is it that the damn majority of films with Jack Black are films I absolutely love? And this is one of them. Nacho Libre is awesome. It's absolutely hilarious and heartwarming at the same time. Like, I love the scenes with Nacho taking care of the orphans and stuff like that. I think it's super heartwarming to see. But even the action in this movie and stuff is cool, with all the lucha libre scenes and stuff like that. It's not quite as good as SpongeBob or Jimmy Neutron or something like that, but it's a really good time, and I'll always love Jack Black, so I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. And now we're on to the 2006 very divisive movie, honestly, Barnyard, which stars Kevin James as Otis, Black and White Cow. It also stars Sam Elliott as a black cow named Ben, and a whole bunch of other cartoon actors that you typically see, like Rob Paulson and some of the others from Jimmy Neutron and stuff like that. So I went into this movie watching it for the first time in like going on almost 20 years. I've only seen this once when it came out in 2006. On my first vacation to Newfoundland, Canada, actually. And I rewatched it for the sake of this retrospective, and I really liked it. The animation doesn't hold up too well, but to be honest, 2006 is almost 20 years ago, which makes my jaw drop. I can actually remember a fair amount of memories from that year. I was only 5, being born in 2001, so yeah. But this movie surprised me because of how freaking sad it was. This movie's second half is really grim. Like, Ben legitimately dies, sacrificing himself to save the chickens from the coyotes. And then there's Otis basically going through crisis throughout the second half of the film until they all go to the junkyard and defeat the coyotes there, and it's a really awesome scene. The won't back down scene is my favorite scene in this entire movie. But what I mainly remember this movie for is actually the video game that I played on the PC a ton as a kid, and I loved that. But yeah, Barnyard, in my opinion, is a really fun movie. I don't quite like it as much as the other O Entertainment film from Nickelodeon, Jimmy Neutron, but I'm totally willing to give it an 8 out of 10. It was a really fun time. I call this film Charming the Movie because Charlotte's Web is such a freaking joy to watch. It just puts a smile on my face every single time I watch this film. And I even saw this film in the theaters when it came out in 2006, sort of just like I did with Barnyard, and this film still holds up so well to this day and age. It's cute, it's very emotional, it's very stunning. The CGI isn't like horrifying like a lot of films from the time are. So yeah, the cast is awesome, especially Steve Buscemi as Templeton. I just love to see him on screen every time he's there. He's the comedic highlight of this film by far for me. And yeah, I'm gonna give Charlotte's Web a 9 out of 10. I won't give it a 10 because the ending kind of confuses me a little bit, and honestly, my theatrical experience with this film was kind of rough because it was really hot in the theater, and it was December and stuff like that, so it wasn't like the middle of July and stuff like that, and it wasn't as bad as Toy Story 3, or Toy Story 3's theatrical experience, but I mean, come on. Anybody who watches this film has to admit that this is one of the most charming films they've ever seen. Before this retrospective, I only ever saw this film on the plane to Canada. Seriously. So, I don't have too much exposure to the Spiderwick Chronicles. Honestly, before I watched this for the retrospective, I thought the main character was the kid from Bridge to Terabithia, which honestly is a better film than this in my opinion, but Spiderwick Chronicles is still really cool. The fantasy creatures are by far the highlight of this film, and sort of like Charlotte's Web, the CGI in this film holds up really well and stuff like that. And the characters are all really charming. The concept of the book is really super cool, and yeah, this film gets an 8 out of 10 for me. It's just such a joy to watch, and it's probably the best action of this part of the retrospective, so if you're into fantasy movies, I would honestly probably suggest this movie from Nickelodeon Movies for you guys. If Charlotte's Web is charming the movie, Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging is uncomfortable the movie. Yeah, this film honestly made me feel pretty uncomfortable. Now listen, I am not the target demographic for this film. I am a 23-year-old man, and I only watch this film for the sake of the retrospective. But it wasn't quite bad. There were tons of scenes in this film, specifically one scene. I just had to fast forward it. Like, literally. The film is basically about a 14-year-old girl named Georgia who sort of goes along with her boyfriend to plan out her 15th birthday party, and those scenes are cool, but I'm gonna highlight 14-year-old girl. Some of the scenes in this film I am genuinely surprised was made by Nickelodeon Movies. And I mean, it's a British film and I love British comedy, so there were a fair amount of scenes that made me laugh, but I don't think I'm ever going to rewatch this film because it honestly makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I'm still going to give the film a 6 out of 10. Hotel for Dogs frickin' rules, man. I mean, this movie was made for me. As a dog lover, if you've paid attention to my channel at all, you know I have 3 dogs, 2 corgis, and a miniature Dachshund, who I would give the world to if I could. So seeing a movie about 2 kids basically taking care of dogs in a hotel is my type of movie. And I loved every second of this film. I'll just give you an example. The opening scene in this movie stars Friday, the little Jack Russell Terrier, who goes up to this guy who's eating a hot dog, and the prick basically teases him with it and then shoves it away from him. But then he drops it and Friday gets his hot dog after all. It's just such a charming movie. Even more than Charlotte's Web, and there's scenes that are heartwarming, like the kids being in a foster home and stuff like that, and heartbreaking. Hotel for Dogs, I'm just going to say it right now, is my favorite film of part 2 of the retrospective. It gets a 10 out of 10 from me. Imagine that is cute, I think would be the best word to describe it. Seeing this little girl's imagination with Eddie Murphy, who is one of the funniest actors alive, honestly, brings us a pretty damn good film. Now, it's not like Oscar award nomination or anything, and it's not quite the best film in this part of the retrospective, but I'd put it over films like Angus and Mad Hot Ballroom and stuff like that, and probably slightly above Yours, Mine, and Ours. But this film is really creative. Eddie Murphy's scenes are honestly funny, as for every film he's in, so honestly, I don't have too much to say about this film. This was a first time watch for me, period. But I will give it a 7 out of 10. It's honestly a really cute film. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. We know what film's next. Let's just get this over with. Oh boy. Here we go. The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan. When you have people like the Nostalgia Critic and Chris Stuckman ripping this film a new ass, that should tell you how bad this film is, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is the worst film of the retrospective so far. Remember how I've been talking about how the CGI hasn't been so bad in the Nickelodeon movies so far? That changes here. It's awful. Aang is as stale bread. Katara is stale. Perfect word to describe Avatar, The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan is stale. This is just such a snore fest with horrible CGI, horrible action. And as a pretty big fan of the anime, I don't know if you'd call it anime because it was made in the US, but basically the style of anime. Anyways, the fan of the cartoon, this is an absolute disservice to that. I think the Netflix series is way better. It's still not near as good as the cartoon, but M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender is gonna be one of the worst films in this entire retrospective. It has to be. I really pray we don't get much worse than this, because this film gets a 2 out of 10. What an awful experience. Now, before we end the video, I am going to be doing something a little bit different with the ranking this time. I am only going to be ranking the films on this part of the retrospective, mainly because I want to leave a full ranking as a surprise for you guys in the final video, which is going to be parts 4 or 5, I believe. So, we're just going to rank the 11 films I did today. So, without further ado, let's get on into it. And without further ado, here is today's ranking for all 11 films in part 2. Number 11, The Last Airbender. You all know why this film is so garbage. 10, Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging. Uncomfortable the Movie. 9, Mad Hot Ballroom. Just not a fan of dance movies. 8, Yours, Mine, and Ours. I absolutely love the cast of this film. Other than that, it's not an especially special movie to me. 7, Imagine That. I love the creativity of this film, and Eddie Murphy is really funny. 6, Barnyard. Really shocking how dark this gets in the second half, but this is a really funny film throughout, honestly. And it's a film that I was pleasantly surprised from with how divisive it is. 5, Lemony Snicket is a series of unfortunate events. Remember this film so much from the SpongeBob movie DVD, and it turned out to be better than I expected. 4, The Spiderwick Chronicles. Really cool CGI creatures combined with a really nice fantasy world. 3, Nacho Libre, a really charming film about Nacho taking care of these orphans and giving them a big lucha libre performance that just warms your heart and makes you laugh hysterically. 2, Charlotte's Web, charming the movie. And 1, Hotel for Dogs. As a dog lover, this is peak. At probably not quite as good as the SpongeBob movie, but I might put it above Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. And I want to thank you guys for the patience with videos lately, and especially this retrospective. I've had such a busy past few months and stuff like that, and honestly, if I was to estimate when part 3 is going to be coming out, I'm going to put an estimate on September, but I don't guarantee it. Right now, I'm putting the date for sometime in the month of September, and yeah. That we will be covering Rango through, I think, the Loud House movie. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing Rango through the Loud House movie for part 3, so if you're looking forward to my new opinions on the Loud House movie, that'll be up next. And yeah, I hope you guys like part 2 of this retrospective. This basically covered the mid to late 2000s for Nickelodeon movies, and next up we'll pretty much be covering the entire rest of the 2010s besides The Last Airbender, plus a few films in the 2020s. And yeah, that's about it guys. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.